Hello. Today we're going to talk about papers. So I'm actually very obsessed with paper as I'm a bookbinder, a photographer, bookbinder, and many other things. But one of the things that I really love doing is making paper and printing on paper. So I'm going to tell you a little bit more about paper in this video and why. Why I'm obsessed with paper. um, Understanding paper and the types of paper available and their ideal uses can enhance the quality of your overall aesthetic of your pictures. So really think about how you shoot, what type of images you shoot, and choose your paper wisely when you're printing. Okay, so primarily I have categorized papers into three main categories. I know there's a lot and there's a lot of nuances in each categories, but I'm just for simplicity, I've grouped it into three. So glossy, matte, and luster. Okay, and I'm going to explain how each of them or the nuance of each, what's it's best for, and then you can decide which paper that you like to print on because I find at the end of the day, it's a personal preference too. Okay, so first we have glossy paper. Glossy paper is known for its shiny and reflective surface. It's ideal for images that require vibrant colors and high contrast. So image like this. So I photographed this image at an aquarium, and because of the blue and the purple and the high contrast in this image will do very well when printed on a glossy paper. Um, and so it's this image where the reds and the greens are so deep and vibrant. So this is an image I photographed for tourism, and it was used for a campaign. And again, this image would do very well if you print it on glossy paper. Okay, so if you also notice with glossy paper, I have two brands here. I'm only going to recommend brands that I've used, but feel free to try different brands and see which one you like. So throughout the years, I find I like these two brands best when it comes to glossy paper. So Hanimal or Epson. Okay, so there's a lot of different Epson glossy. Try to use the premium one or the higher quality one. I think you'll find better results when you use their higher end glossy papers. Okay, so next we have matte paper, which is what my favorite and my soft spot for matte paper. I tend to use the brand Moab and Hanimal when it comes to matte paper. So Hanimal has a lot of different types of matte, so is Moab. But Hanimal, I love their photo rag and museum rag. And then with Moab, I used this one here last fall, and then another one called Enchant, I think it's called Enchant. So it just depends on your taste, but I would say, they both have sample package where you can just buy the package and there's different types of paper, test it all out and see which one you like and you prefer. Okay, and that's how I started. I bought the sample pack and I started printing the same image on each paper to determine which paper I like. So when it comes to matte paper has a smooth, non-reflective surface. It's perfect for images that require a soft and subdued look, like this image here that I photographed in France. So it is black and white, but it's medium to low contrast. So it's a little bit more subdued. Um, but be very careful when printing on matte paper because the paper absorbs ink more than the glossy, that you have to really play with soft proofing to make sure that black is the black that you want. Okay, so a little bit more testing on matte paper if you're printing black and white. Um, it's also very good for texture artwork like this one here. This is my flower series that I photographed, and the soft gradients in the whites. I really like that on a matte paper, especially photo rag. Um, so It's not for everybody. Some people hate matte paper, but I personally love matte paper. Um, the paper's texture allows excellent detail reproduction without the distraction of a reflection like how you would see on a glossy. Okay, so that's just why I personally like matte paper. Okay, so next we have an in between. So luster, semi pearl, or luster, semi, and pearl. Those I categorize that all together. Those are different names and different purpose with minor differences, different depending on the brand. So the brand that I use, luster, semi pearl, or semi and pearl, is Epson and Ilford. So they have really nice pearl paper and luster paper. Okay, so with luster, I find it is kind of good balance between glossy and matte. It offers semi-gloss finish with an excellent color saturation and a subtle texture. So for some people that like a smooth texture like pearl, but not like the texture surface like matte, pearl kind of offers the in between. So it's not as glossy but not as rough as matte paper. So they do have also, like I said, a lot of these brand has a sample pack. I would encourage you to buy a sample pack and print it out and test out the paper that you like your work on. So images that do really well on these types of papers are portraits, weddings, and commercials. So this is a commercial work I did for interior tourism, and when printed on this luster, it was just really nice. It's able to capture all the details without the distraction reflection or this textured surface like the matte paper. So again, it's a little bit of, it's just preference, I think. But nevertheless, I don't have any example portraits or weddings because I don't really do either of it. I'm more a tourism commercial photographer. So, but if you are do portraits and wedding, consider thinking about using this paper to print on. Okay, it's an excellent choice. It's very versatile, and a lot of professional printers actually would recommend this type of paper. Okay, so in conclusion, I find sometime, it's a personal preference. Sometimes it's about the type of images best on the type of paper. So, but you have people like me that really doesn't like printing on glossy, or you have the opposite. Some people just hate printing on matte. So really, it's like a personal choice at this point. Okay, so when you're Googling or when you're going to the store and buying these papers, there's something else that you have to notice. You'll notice like this one, GSM. So what is that? What does GSM and what does it mean? Okay, so and what's the significance of that? Okay, so GSM stands for grams per square meter. It refers to the weight and the thickness of the paper. GSM really tells you how dense or how heavy the paper is. So the higher the number, the thicker the paper, the lower the number, the thinner the paper. Okay, so it does play, why is it important? Because it plays a crucial role in determining its suitability and different printing needs. So for me, when I print really big on animal, I actually print on really thick GSM, close to 310, right? Or sometimes 290 or 190, like thicker paper. Okay, so low GSM, things that are considered under 100, is your everyday printing, like draft papers, copies, and flyers. Then you have the higher value, anything from 120 to 200. Um, which is thick enough, but it's also flexible enough. And just be aware, some printers don't print higher than 200. So double check the printer to make sure the paper can go through the printer before you go and buy that. But I personally bought 310 and printed on Epson. the professional Epson printer. So I know it works, but sometimes you have to jam it in. So we have to play with that if it's too thick. Okay. So then the high GSM, which is ranges from 220 to 300, or a little bit more. It's very thick and sturdy. It's really ideal for business cards, invitations, and art prints. So that's why I buy those paper more often. And I actually printed business cards with them. I printed postcards with them. I also print art prints with them, and I actually sell my art prints. Okay, uh, so really, it's really kind of needing to know why you're printing this, and that'll determine what GSM you need, or you want to buy, and then it's also the type of images that you print. So I've been printing for more than 10 years, selling prints through a rep, and also selling prints on my own, also doing a lot of shows and exhibitions. So this is kind of like my 10 years of experience of printing. But at the end of the day, sometimes it's all about just general preference. Some people's like, I understand all that, but I still like to do what I like to do, right? So, but that's again, it's a personal preference at that point. But really um, be mindful of gallery. So if you're going to showcase something in gallery, glossy paper might be very reflective when it's on a wall. So something to think about and consider. Matte paper is really dull, so it doesn't kind of, sometimes in a dark room it kind of blends into the background. So things to be careful, and that's why if you are exhibiting your work, I always tell students to go and check out the gallery, go check out the lighting situation, and then buy the printer, or buy the paper or print specific paper for the specific gallery. Because if you're very, very picky, sometimes you might even consider the color of the light in the gallery. So if the gallery has cool light, you might want a warmer paper, or you want a cooler paper to play with the cool paper, or you want a warmer paper to um, kind of balance the the cool light in the gallery. Or you have the opposite, right? The gallery has warm lights, and you want maybe a cooler paper to not make your picture as warm. Okay, so a lot of things to think about if you're exhibiting. This is just at a very high level. Um, okay, and giving you just like a basic understanding of papers and why you need to pay attention to papers and why it's important. Okay, so I hope that's gives you a little summary of that, and happy printing. And I look forward to seeing your prints or hearing about which paper you decided to select and use.